Your boy MC back in the building. We talk about the legendary Death Row Records. I'm gonna do it the old school way. I ain't gonna read it on my phone because I won't be looking up y'all. So I'm gonna be not looking at it on share screen, but I'm looking on the other screen while I'm talking to y'all. It didn't dawn on me too earlier how to do it. Like I said, more ain't nothing to it but to do it. So here we go. Death Row Records is an American record label. Was founded in 1991 by the D.O.C., Dr. Dre, Suge Knight, and Dick Griffey. The label became a sensation. The label became a sensation and releasing multi-platinum hip-hop albums by the West Coast-based artists such as Dr. Dre, The Chronic, Snoop Dogg, Doggy Style, The Dogfather, and Tupac. All Eyes on Me, The Don Illuminati, The 7-Day Theory. During the 1990s, at its peak, Death Row made over 100 million annually. By the late 1990s, the label began to decline after the death of the star artist Tupac, imprisonment of Suge Knight, and the departure of Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg, ended about in controversies, lawsuits, and extreme violence by its artists and associates, despite enjoying financial success. Death Row Records filed for bankruptcy in 2006 and was auctioned to Wide Awake Entertainment for $18 million on January 15, 2009. The owner of Wide Awake went bankrupt in 2012. The label was sold to Entertainment One, and it became a division of Hasbro and, yes, the toy company, until April 2021, when One Music was sold to the Blackstone Group. Snoop Dogg bought Death Row from MNRK Music Group in February 2022 and intended to revive the label. History: 1987 to 1992. Origins of the first generation. In 1987, NWA's Dr. Dre signed to Eazy-E's Ruthless Records as a head of production of the label. Dr. Dre produced a large number of projects on them successful. One of them successful. No, many of them successful. Feeling the pressures of having to produce so many acts and feeling he was underpaid, Dr. Dre became frustrated with Ruthless, and after the departure of Ice Cube in 1989 over financial disagreements with Jerry Heller, Suge Knight and the D.O.C. went over to the books with a lawyer convinced Jerry Heller and Eazy was dishonest. They approached Dr. Dre about forming a label with them away from Jerry Heller and Eazy-E. Allegedly using strong arm tactics, Suge Knight was able to produce contracts from Eazy-E for the D.O.C., Dr. Dre, Joel, and Michelle A. And Dr. Dre and Suge Knight, along with the partners, the D.O.C. and Dick Griffey, began the process of starting a record label and the music partnership. Anticipation of Dr. Dre's departure from Ruthless, although the name of the new music venture was originally called Future Shock. Both the D.O.C. and Suge Knight's business associate Michael O'Harris was claimed to have suggested the changing the name to a new label to Death Row and a play to Def Jam. But rights to the name were already owned by the unknown DJ, who also happened to be one of Dre's former music associates in the 1980s. Unknown stated that in the interview that he created the name Death Row for, spelled D-E-F, Row, R-O-W, instead of what we know now, D-E-A-T-H-R-O-W, for a potential deal to start another record label under Morgan Creek. However, he later sold the naming rights to Dr. Dre and his partners in July 1991, and by 1992, the name changes to the eventual title of Death Row Records. Knights approached Michael Harris, the businessman in prison on drug attempt murder charge student David Kenner, an attorney handling Harris' appeal. Harry O set up Godfather Entertainment, a parent company for the newly Christian Death Row. Knight approached Vanilla Ice Robert Van Winkle using management connections with Mario Chocolate Johnson, claiming Johnson had produced and co-written the song Ice Ice Baby and had not received royalties for it. After consulting with Alex Robinson, Knight and two bodyguards arrived at the Palm West Hollywood, Los Angeles, California, where Van Winkle was eating. After shoving Van Winkle's bodyguards aside, Knight sat down in front of Van Winkle, staring at him before asking how you doing. Similar incidents were reported on several occasions, including alleged attempts to lure Vanilla Ice into a van filled with Bloods and Crips. Before Knight showed up in Vanilla Ice Hotel suit on 15th floor in the Bel Age Hotel, accompanied by Johnson and a member of the Los Angeles Raiders, according to Vanilla Ice. Took him out in the balcony by himself and implied he would throw Vanilla Ice off unless he signed the rights to song over tonight. Van Winkle's money helped fund Death Row. Death Row was initially located at the intersection of Westwood Boulevard and Wilshire Boulevard to be relocated to the intersections of Wilshire Boulevard in St. Vincent. 1992 to 1995, the Chronic Doggy Style other releases. With the help of Kendall, the Knight began signing young inner city California-based artists. Through Shugs connections with Dick Griffey arranged for Death Row to contribute to the soundtrack for the 1992 film Deep Cover, the single Deep Cover. And You Don't Stop One Late 7 Cop established Dr. Dre as a solo artist and young Snoop Doggy Dogg as his protege. Soon after that, got Check the Road. Dr. Dre discovered and brought in Virginia artist Lady Rage. Shout out to Virginia, California, you know what it is. As well as the stepbrother Warren G. Does it that going and stuff, I'm looking for a St. Nice at Queens up the fire. Let me concentrate. That's it. Look to my homie next, just singing in the clip and one in the hole, and the dog is about to make somebody's turn gold. Gold to be dropping and yelling so tad bit late, and they dog and Warren G had to regulate. Warren G, Snoop Doggy Dog, burning his friend Corrupt, and cousins that Ninja Daz and Nate Dogg and RBX. The DOC was retained for songwriting with his stable of artist work comments on The Chronic, Dr. Dre's debut studio album. In 1992, Jimmy Lovins and Interscope Records negotiated a $10 million deal with Dr. Dre and Marion Suge Knight to finance the distribute Death Row. And meeting and negotiations was initiated by John McClain, who met Dr. Dre when he was recording It's the Chronic. Original plans had called for the album to be released through Sony, but Sony passed on The Chronic due to Death Row's controversial nature and Dr. Dre's contractual status. After hearing the album, Loving agreed to release it. Doing so required a complicated distribution agreement with Priority Records, Dr. Dre's labels as a member of NWA. Ninjas with aka Ninjas with Attitude. The Chronic was released on December 1992. The album, which was released on December 15th and peaked at number 3 on the Billboard's Top 200, went on to sell 5.7 million records worldwide, popularizing the district's style of G-Funk. The Death Row roster consists of Dr. Dre, Daz, Corrupt, Nate Dogg, The Lady Rage, the DOC, Joel, Mr. Peace, RBX, and many more. After Snoop Dogg found solo success through his features on The Chronic, Dr. Dre began producing Snoop Dogg's debut album, Doggy Style, one of my first albums I was introduced to. Snoop Dogg. Throughout 1993, Snoop Dogg's debut was released on November 23rd, 1993, due to the public demand. The high pressure from retailers through Unfinished Ed outperformed The Chronic of quadruple platinum and garnered similarly glowing reviews. Soon as after the release of the album, Snoop Dogg was charged with murder. Fueling the debate, murder was a case that they gave me. My eyes were beginning to start bloodshot red. The politicians, C. Delaware Tucker, and Vice President candidate Dion Coyle sparked the criticizing gangster rap for being against American values, degrading to black women, and encouraging violence towards police officers. Throughout 1994, Death Row Records released the soundtracks to Above the Rim, one of my favorite soundtracks, and Murder Was the Case on November 22nd, 1994, at the office of the Brotherhood Crusades in Los Angeles. Suge Knight and several artists from Death Row, such as The Dog Pound, as well as DJ Quick, distributed nearly 2,000 turkeys to the public. Death Row also donated turkeys in the following year as well, On March 13th, 1995, Death Row Records hosted a private party at the El Rey Theater with Kelly Jamison. A Roller 60s Crip was severely beaten by several Bloods who allegedly formed Suge Knights in the circle. As a result of his injuries, Jameson died the next day of the, may he rest in peace, of the Cedar Cincinnati Medical Center. 1995 to 1996, signing Tupac Bad Boy Records feud, Dr. Dre's departure. After the August visit to see Tupac in Clinton Correctional Family Facility in New York State, Suge traveled southside to New York City to join Death Row's entourage to the second annual Sosa Award ceremony, already reputed for strong-arming tactics down the Los Angeles rap scene. After grieving a brief comment of support of Secure, Suge used his brief stage name mainly to discard Sean Puff Daddy Combs, CEO, made for him, of Bad Boy Records. The label then leading New York rap scene. Knight criticized Combs for his habit of adding ad-libs to all his artists' music as well as making numerous cameo appearances. And the artist, when he say, if you don't want them all in the video, dancing, all in the studio, recording all the songs coming to Death Row. I remember that in 1995, I was 4 years old. Records label leader in New York comes an ad-libbing artist and Fuller making numerous cameo appearances in the artist's music videos. Suge then invite artists seeking the spotlight for themselves to join Death Row. Eventually, Puff recalled that too. Prenup solo retaliations from his Bad Boys crew had politely confronted Suge, whose reply that he had met Jermaine Dupri and Social Death Recordings in Atlanta was politics enough to desolate the conflict. Still among the fans, the previous diffused rivalry between America's two mainstream rap scenes had instantly flared already, and while in New York, Suge visited Uptown Records, where Puff, under the founder Andre Harrell, had started the music business to an internship, apparently without paying. Uptown Suge obtained the releases of Puff Prime, Uptown Recruits Jodeci, its producers Devontae Swain, and Mary J. Blige, all of them signing with Suge's management company on September 24th, 1995. And September 24th, 1995, on Jermaine Dupri's birthday party at the Platinum House nightclub in Atlanta, Georgia, Bad Boys entourage entered a heated dispute with Suge Knights and Suge's friend Hassan Jamal, Big Jake Rubles, in the Campbell Park, Piru Bloods gang members, and Death Row bodyguard, according to eyewitnesses, including the Fulton County Sheriff working there as a nightclub bouncer. Puff had heatedly disputed with Suge inside the club. Several minutes later, outside the club, Puff's childhood friend and own bodyguard Anthony Wolf Jones was involved in a heated altercation with others and ultimately led to Robbie's being fatally shot while entering the Louisiana. Attorneys of Puff and Jones both denied their involvement by their clients, while Puff lawyer added to Puff had to even being with the bodyguard that night. Over 20 years later, the case remains officially unresolved, and Jones himself was fatally shot in Atlanta, Georgia, in November 2003. Yeah, during the altercation with the Black Mafia family, BMF, yet immediately permissively should blame Puff cemented in between the two bosses whose two record labels dominated the rap mainstream centers. On October 1995, Knight visited Tupac in the prison again and posted a $1.4 million bond. Tupac began to work on his Death Row album, kicking off his tenure by assaulting notorious B.I.G. and Junior Mafia and Puff Daddy, the founder of Bad Boys Records, BBR, whom he accused of setting him up and began robbing the side of the Quiet Studios on November 30th, 1994, as well as the mob lead Jay-Z, A Tribe Called Quest, De La Soul, Jimmy Henchman, The Fugees, and Nas. Dogg Pound's debut album, Dog Food, continued the label streaks and the commercial success of members, rappers Corrupt and Daz Dillinger, then joined Snoop in the ridicule of New York rappers. New York OVL when they kicked down the buildings. The rappers, the single New York, featuring Snoop Dogg. The video set in New York City. New York was also heightened when the set was fired upon in a drive-by. After the shooting, Snoop Dogg and the Dogg Pound filmed scenes kicking down buildings in New York. The single provoked a response called LA LA by the East Side rappers. Pony Noriega, Tragedy, Gaddafi, and Mobb Deep. And another report was that Sam Snead was the beaten in one of the labels meetings by a group of Death Row affiliates led by Suge Knight and Tupac, according to Daz Dillinger. The reason this happened was that Sam Snead had too many East Coast rappers in his later Lady Heroin music video, Delusion, with the direction of Death Row artist RBX and the DOC, choose to leave after that, which Suge Knight exercised tighter control over the rest of the roster. Dog Food was not produced by Dr. Dre, mixed by Dr. but was mixed by Dr. Dre, further testament of Dr. Dre's minimal involvement with Death Row. Dr. Dre also grew tired of Knight's violence within the labels, although he contributed towards 2 tracks on Tupac's All Eyes on Me, and the rest of the tracks, and the rest of the tracks of the album, however, were mostly produced by Daz Dillinger and Johnny J. Despite Dr. Dre being normally titled as executive producer, Tupac's behavior reportedly became erratic as he continued his verbal wars with Notorious B.I.G. Bad Boy Records. Puff Daddy, Mobb Deep, and Prodigy included many violent confrontations with many of those rappers at some points on March 22nd, 1996, due to the infighting. Dr. Dre officially left Death Row Records in two-found aftermath, which provoked Tupac to turn against Dr. Dre. Suge Knight's relationship with MC Hammer dates back into 1988, with success of Hammer's 1994 album, The Funky Head. Hammer signed with Death Row Records in 1995, along with his close friend Tupac. The label did not release the album of MC Hammer's music titled Too Tight, although he did release versions of some tracks on the next album. However, Hammer did record tracks with Cool and others, most notably the song Too Late Player, along with Big Daddy Kane and Danny Boy. After the death of Tupac in 1996, MC Hammer left the label. 1996 to 2001. Tupac Shakur's murder, Suge Knight's incarceration, and decline. Formerly a united front of artists, Death Row's roster fractured into separate camps. Daz, now head of producer, worked on Snoop Dogg's second album, The Dogfather, which featured Bad AZZ, Bad Azza, and Tenax, all of the LBC crew, Warren G, and Nate Dogg of his group, and the Dog Pound. Tupac at the point. Now going by the alias Machiavelli, come with me, Hail Mary. La 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 la, and a killer, but don't piss me. But Vince like to sweet and joy, and it's getting to see. And shuts himself into the studio with Hurt and Bad. And Big D crafted a Don Illuminati, the 7-Day Theory. Unlike All Eyes on Me, it was devoid to high profile Death Row guest appearances instead of showcasing Outlaws and Bad AZZ. It had much darker tones. Suge Knight was now barely reachable by his staff, and employees were assaulted as punishment for not following order. In New York City for the MTV Video Music Awards, Tupac was interviewed on Death Row East, an East Coast substantially branch of Death Row. It was also during the time Alex Roberts and David Cannon had been seen at Suge Knight's Vegas club in 662, and the discussion about the possibilities of having Roberts' New York underworld connections helped pave the way for Death Row East. The record label was supposed to be the run by Eric B. and the Big D, with Craig Mack being the first artist signed to the label on September 7, 1996. Suge Knight and Tupac were caught in a surveillance camera at MGM Studio. Respects Tupac. You would truly be missed. In Grand Hotel in the Las Vegas, attacking gang member Orlando Anderson, who was a member of the Southside Compton Crips street gang. Later that night, Tupac was shot 4 times in a drive-by shooting in front of the seat of Suge Knight's BMW 7050 Oil. Waiting at the red traffic light at the crossroads so you won't be lonely. Mr. B. In Route of Nights, Las Vegas Club 662. Despite living 6 days in critical condition, Tupac died on September 13th, 1996. I was 5 years old when that happened. He was 25 years old. Death Row quickly released Tupac's Don Illuminati 7-Day Theory on November 1996, just 1 week before Snoop Dogg's The Dogg Father, which both achieved multi-platinum sales. The following months, Death Row released his compilation albums Death Row Greatest Hits and Christmas on Death Row, and the soundtrack albums for the time, Gridlock and Gang Related. Nate Dogg's album G-Vogue Class, one of the best. Check that out. You want to hear true West Coast storytelling. Volume 1 was supposed to be released on January 14th, 1997, but got shelved due to the issue with Death Row Records, despite getting released immediately as a double disc the following year. On February 28th, Suge Knight was convicted of probation violation and sentenced to 9 years in prison, causing Interscope to drop their distribution deal with the label. Suge Knight's control over the label dismissed as Nate Dogg was able to leave, followed by Snoop Dogg and Kurupt. Later, Rage left after the release of her solo album, Necessary Roughness. Stuff my Afro Puff, rock on your best self. To pursue an acting career, so did Marcellus with Hung Jury. Daz Dillinger departed in 1999 after the release of his debut album, Retaliation, Revenge, and Get Back, but produced for Big C Style, and later formed DPG Records, Dog Pound Gang, that is. Black Gold, Beverly Hillbillies, Hollywood, California, Los Angeles, the Bay Area, Compton. During the Knight's incarceration, Death Row released Suge Knight's Represent Chronic 2000 and Two Gangster for Radio, which both received negative reviews. Both albums had the label's new signees, The Realest and YGD, The Top Dog, who were criticized for intimidating the styles with the vocals of Tupac and Snoop Dogg. Also, Dead Man Walking, not to mistake for Undertaker. The Snoop Dogg compilation of unreleased recordings was released without his authorization. 2001 to 2005, Knight's release and return to prison, second generation. Maintaining artistic control for behind bars, Suge Knight launched smear campaigns against his former artists, most notably Snoop Dogg. Was changed by Snoop Dogg, responded by publicly dissing Snoop Dogg, Suge Knight by leaving the label and later releasing diss track Pimp Slapped Him. Garnering critical acclaim from music magazine Complex, he signed new talent including Crooked I. Shout out to Crooked I, salute. You know what it is. Can you feel it? On August 6, 2001, Suge Knight was released from prison. Just 3 days later, and it was reported by the Los Angeles Times that Daz Dillinger filed a lawsuit against Death Row and Suge Knight, alleging he was defrauded of $1 million in royalties and other payments. The lawsuit accused Death Row for exploiting Daz withholding payments and concerning him into signing revised contracts in 1997 and 1998 under the threats and without independent audit. Daz stated he received only $75,000 advance under the 1998 agreement and disputed whether royalties from early contracts remain owed. The case allowed that Death Row failed to cover agreed upon recording expenses. Despite bad blood, Kurupt will again sign with Suge Knight in exchange for his position of vice president, which sparked a feud between himself and Daz Dillinger and Snoop Dogg. He began work on Against the Grain. His verbal feud with his former partners continued from 2002 to 2005. The same year, I remember that in Game said, I would love to see Daz and Kurupt get back together. And ironically, they did. The same year, Knight decided to enter the UK market with Death Row Records operating as an independent record label in conjunction with the Ricks Music Group, a company known for its success with Irish country music artists such as Daniel O'Daniel. The joint venture signed British and R&B singers Mark Morrison in a 5-year deal with Death Row Records UK with a single called Thank God It's Friday, also known as TGIF. in the album called Innocent Man, scheduled for a 2002 release. However, the single did not chart in the UK, and the album ended up being released by footballer Kevin Campbell's record label, Too Wicked, before being reissued in 2006, the Mona Records. Left Eye member and R&B girl group TLC, rest in peace Left Eye, rest in peace Javril, rest in peace Nate Dogg, rest in peace Tupac. Signed with Death Row Records after finishing her solo deal with Arista, who released her first album Supernova in 2001. At this time, Death Row Records changed to the Row Records. Lopez joined the record second solo album under the man phenomenal under Phenom Nina, period N, period I, period N, period A. In other words, it stands for a new identity, not applicable. While also working on TLC's new album 3D, Nina was canceled after her death in April 2002. The album was leaked online in 2011. After promoting his new talent from prison, directing a campaign against his former artists, and exacerbating the conflict between Daz, Dangerous, Snoop Dogg, and Corrupt, or DSK, KSD, DKD. Suge had still yet released an album by his new artist after Corrupt's second departure. Against the Grain was released soon after, citing dissatisfaction with serving 5 years at the label and seeing no release. The rapper's crooked eye left Death Row eventually, filing a gag order on Night to prevent him from interfering with him finding a new deal. Petey Pablo, my hometown hero from North Carolina, stand up, raise up, who had signed in 2005 and started a never released album, Same Eyes on Me, left alone with rapper The Realest in 2006. 2006 2022 bankruptcy and ownership change. On April 4th, 2006, both Death Row Records and Suge Knight seamlessly filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection following the appointment of the received into no acquired or auction off assets. Both Death Row Records and Suge Knight in the civil case filed by Lita Harris among those listed as unsecured creditors to Death Row. Included the Harris's 107 million in initial revenue services, 6.9 million, Cox Records 3.4 million, Interscope Records 2.5 million, and a number of artists previously signed to the label. Suge Knight eventually lost control of Death Row Records and his personal assets. On Chapter 11, trustees took over both cases. On January 15, 2009, Death Row Records was successfully auctioned for $18 million to Antonio-based Wide Awake Entertainment Group that was founded in 2006 by Larry Labby and with finances from New Solutions Financial Corporation. And on January 25, 2009, a public auction was held by eventually found in Death Row's office after it failed to file for bankruptcy. On the note, the Death Row electric chair, which went in to US 2,500. LA Valley removed from Wide Awake and Robert Thompson Soul of New Solutions took over day-to-day operations. Levi sued her former company Wide Awake along with New Solutions and Thompson Soul in New York County Court on November 19, 2009. Wide Awake issued previously unreleased material from such artists as Corrupt, Danny Boy, Crooked Eye, Sam Snead, LBC Crew, Jarrell, and O.F.T.B. Dr. Dre's The Chronic Relit was released on September 1st, 2009, and was contained in Chronic Remastered with 7 unreleased songs featuring Snoop Dogg, CPO, Corrupt, Joel, and a bonus DVD containing a Dr. Dre interview, a Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg mini movie, and the television commercials for the original The Chronic album. Just at the corner store, you know what I'm looking for. St. Eyes also contained a scene from the unfinished feature film entitled Saigon, California, or CA for short, which was to launch a Wide Awake's film studio. Death Row, The Lost Sessions Volume 1 by Snoop Dogg was released on October 19th, 2009. It contained 15 previous unreleased tracks, including some produced by Dr. Dre. Death Row The Ultimate Collection was released on November 24th. It was a special box set containing three audio CDs, one greatest hits disc, and two discs on unreleased content and DVD music videos, including the unreleased of Dr. Dre's music video, Puffin' on Blunts, or POB for short. On December 5th, 2012, Jonathan Hay, a former Death Row publicist, reported through Hip Hop DX, the New Solution Financial Corporation, and Canadian company that owned Wide Awake Death Row, had gone bankrupt and sold both the labels and catalog to a publicly held company in a deal that would be closed on December 10th in 2013. E1 Music, formerly Koch, the distributor of Death Row, in the 2000s purchased the rights to Death Row catalog. New Solutions Financial Corporation was eventually exposed as an alleged Ponzi scheme on August 23rd, 2019. America's toy company Hasbro announced a $4 billion purchase of E1, making them the owners of Death Row Records. In April 2021, Hasbro Entertainment, E1's parent company, announced it would sell off E1 Music to the Blackstone Group, which its accomplice was complete in June 2021. 2022 impressed comeback through Snoop Dogg and the Third Generation. On February 9th, 2022, ahead of the release of his next album and his appearance in the Super Bowl LV1. I think that might be 24. Excuse me, folks. I don't really know my Roman numerals like that. So Snoop Dogg announced that he would acquire the rights to Death Row. I'm glad he did. Records trademarks from MNRK Music Group and renamed E1 Music. And the sale did not immediately include rights to the label's catalogs, but it was reported that he was nearing a deal to acquire the catalogs of himself and other Death Row artists from MNRK. On February 11th, 2022, Snoop Dogg released his third studio album on Death Row Records, marking a 26-year lapse from the label after his sophomore album. Snoop Dogg purchase of Death Row Records did not include the rights to Tupac's and Dr. Dre's albums originally, which those rights have been reverted back to Interscope Records on March 4th, 2022. In an interview with Tidal, Dog stated that he acquired the rights to all the albums previously released on Death Row Records, including his debut studio album Doggy Style and Dr. Dre's The Chronic. Despite the interview, Dr. Dre's lawyer Howard King denied the false reports 2 days later and stated that Dr. Dre still retained total control of The Chronic, which came back to the streaming service on February 1st, 2023. On April 18, 2022, after Death Row's catalog was removed from streaming services, it was announced that Death Row Records will have its own streaming service, which pays higher royalties to its artists than the main music streaming service. In December 2022, Snoop Dogg sold a stake of Death Row's catalog to former Apple's Music Global Creative Director Larry Jackson's music label Gamma. In early 2023, October London's The Rebirth of Marvin was released on February 12th, 2023. Snoop Dogg announced the Death Row's catalog will return to TikTok via associates with music distribution company SoundOn. Death Row's catalog returned to all music streaming services on March 9th. Following more a year with no studio albums in May 31st, 2024, the Dogg Pound released W period A period W period G period, aka stand for we got. And the first studio album was nearly 3 decades. In October 11th, October London released his second studio album on the label October Nights. On December 13th, Snoop Dogg released Missionary, entirely produced by Dr. Dre, and went on at peak at number 20 on the Billboard 200 and sell over 38,000 albums equivalent units. On May 15, 2025, Snoop Dogg released It's a Crime. It was previewed in a private screening in New York City 2 days prior. On April 10th, 2026, he will also release 10 to Midnight, which was co-released in short film Stop Counting by Pockets, spelled Poccets. The current artists are Snoop Dogg, 1991 to 1998, released under the label 5 years, 2022 to present. 5 Merciless, 2022 to present. October London, 2023 to present, released on the label 2. D Smoke, 2023 to present. He ain't been released. The Dog Pound, 1992 to 1998, 2024 to present, release 2. The East Siders, 2024 to present, release 1. Former artists, Deals, Dr. Dre, DLC, Michelle Lee, Joel, Lady Reyes, Nate Dogg, Corrupt, Daz Jr., CPO, Sam Snead, O period, F period, T period, B period, Lil Bow Wow, Superfly, J Flex, Danny Boy, Young Soldiers, Red Rum, 781, K Solo, Tupac, MC Hammer, Prince Anil, Joe, Outlaws, Top Dog, The Realest, Lil C Style, Mac Sean, Above the Law, Cricket Eye, Lisa Lopez. Former producers, Dr. Dre, DJ Quick, Chris the Glove Taylor, Random D, Daz Dillinger, Kevin Lewis, Sam Snead, Sean, Barney, Rebel Thomas, like Barney Rome, Flintstones, Occasion One, Superfly, Erdem Bag, Jay Villain, Daryl Big D Harper, Curtis Kurt Cobain, Calvin, that's the late great Kurt Cobain. This episode. Reggie DeVille Moore, Jim Gotthard, Cold 187, and Derek Vegas. Premium albums, Dr. Dre The Chronic, Snoop Doggy Dogg, Doggy Style, The Dog Pound, Dog Food, Tupac, All Eyes on Me, Mr. Peace, Machiavelli, The Don Illuminati, 7 Day Theory, Snoop Doggy Dogg, The Dog Father, Lady Race, Necessary Roughness, released November 5th, 1996, chart position number 1 on US Real Certification Platinum, released November 12th, 1996, chart position number 1 on US RIAA Certification 2 times Platinum. Daz Dillinger, Retaliation, Vengeance and Get Back, Michelle Lee, Hung Jury, Tupac, Until the End of Time, Tupac, Better Days, Corrupt Against the Grain, Danny Boy, It's About Time, Cricket Eye, Hood Stars, Sam Snead, Street Stars, LBC Crew, Haven't You Heard, period O, period F, period T, period B, period Dang, Near, Dead, Joel, Black Diamond, Snoop Dogg, BODR, October London, The Rebirth of Marvin, The Dog Pound, W period A period W period G period. We all we got. Okay, we all we got. October London, October Night, Snoop Dogg, Missionary. And Snoop Dogg is It Is the Crime. This is the story of Death Row. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. God bless. Have a good day. Hit the notification bell so you know when to check me out. Go share these videos. Go like these videos. Whatever they know how I do, the MC. Y'all want a freestyle? So here we go. I'm about to end this with a freestyle, but make sure you get 5 more people to subscribe. So I'm coming for you. Bring it up knowledge. You better come with this soup. We speaking this fire. We spitting fire like Sub-Zero. Nah, we just picking. We spitting fire like Scorpion. Freeze like Sub-Zero. We spit the acid like the Riptide. Bringing rain on you like rain. And the lightning like my man Ray Don coming to side. We hit you like Chris Saban with the overkill, shock value, and shock treatment. Shockology. Study my biology. Hit him like a dunk. How we do it? Rest in peace to Kobe, the Bryantist, the scientist. Guess what? We have to fill this cup up like it's the typhoon Sunday, like this, and drinking that holy water. Guess what? We coming back to you, sack to you, hit you up tomorrow with something you never seen before. Top tipping like a tornado. We got to end this before. Bluebells, blue ice cream. We have you freezing the chilling on the floor. I have a third word, contact villain. You know how we do it from the north to the south to the east to the west. Backpackers rap. Check my songs I done did. Go to my videos and like them and watch my songs. Of course, Scars and the G.O.D. Spitting these hard lyrical bars with Romans, Luke, chapter Revelations, Mark, and Genesis. Of course, First Chronicles, 2 Timothy, and we got Christmas time. Boondocks, that is Power Rangers Mighty Morphin, like Ren and Stimpy. Lord